Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Alyssa Owens. Welcome to my home in Melbourne. Come on in.
This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Owens and I am an interior decorator, and we are here today in my home in Melbourne, Australia. So my husband and I had been looking for homes in the inner north for probably a year before we came across this property in Northcote. And at that time I was pregnant with my first son, Theodore, and we were looking for a place that we could grow into and that suited family life. We were in this beautiful heritage apartment in Carlton, but really needed some outdoor space and a place where, we had more room. And we came to an open house in the afternoon, and I'm so grateful that we came in the afternoon because the northerly light coming through the windows was just absolutely gorgeous. It was the dead of winter, but the house still felt really warm, and it became instantly, I instantly recognized that this could be a place where I could sort of envision our family life. It had this gorgeous garden in the back, and it was easy to, picture sort of moving in between the living room and the garden as a family. Now, the space definitely needed work. The kitchen at the time was a bit outdated from the early 90s, but that really only added to the appeal for us. I wanted something that I could put my mark on without having to do a full gut renovation. We were in the height of COVID, and with building costs being what they were, we didn't want to spend a ton of money and a ton of time redoing the whole thing. So there was enough of a need to renovate that we could, we could focus on the kitchen and the dining and the bathrooms, and the rest of the house was gorgeous as it was and could just use with a few sort of, cosmetic upgrades. So here in the combined living and dining space, we completely redid the kitchen, and also added these steel frame doors and windows towards the back of the house to create a better flow between the garden and the indoors. It's a bit of an Aussie thing, I realized, is sort of this indoor-outdoor living as a design priority. We also had one bathroom in the original home that we split into two and connected one of those to the ensuite, or connected one of those to the master bedroom as an ensuite. And we refinished the floors, we painted, and we added some lovely new joinery at the front of the house to increase storage because, kids. And the rest of the house was largely left untouched at that point. We've done some things as we've lived in the space, we've done more. So we've painted rooms as we've sort of moved in and lived in the space. We painted the shed in the back and added some of our own touches to the garden. But most of the work was done and completed in 2021 before we moved in. So here we are in the hallway. You can see there's a long hallway that leads back to the combined living and dining area. And we have the bedrooms all here on the left-hand side, but we'll pop into those a little bit later. But before we do, I want to show you a few pieces in the hallway, starting with the entry hooks. So these are from Christina Dam Studios, and I just think it's a lovely sculptural moment. So they're made out of oak, and add a nice little sculptural element right at the beginning of the house. We have the guest room over here, my son's nursery in here, And here we've come across our first artwork. This is a landscape from a local artist. His name is Zach Tilley, and we've actually purchased 3 of his artwork. So you could see the other one is over here. He does these beautiful landscapes of mostly the Northern Territory, but he sort of pops all over Australia. And one of my favorite elements of the pieces is that he does these borders, these built-in borders on the canvas. So you can see there's a stripe here and a more graphic border over there. The colors just make me super happy when I get to walk out of my bedroom every day and look at them. This is a traditional Victorian terrace in Northcote, and it has a lot of beautiful ornate details out front, and you'll see there's this gorgeous wisteria tree wrapping around one of the front posts. And that's what greets you when you walk up onto the porch. And then through a very brightly colored yellow door that I painted into the terrace. And the first 3 rooms are our bedrooms. So we have a guest room, my son's nursery, and then the master bedroom. And as you're walking down the hallway, you come into a much more expansive back space, which is where the combined living, dining, and kitchen area is. And if you continue through to the back of the house, you'll find some steel frame windows that really frame our back garden. Our back garden isn't huge, but it really packs a punch in sort of the design and feel. And those steel frame doors lead out into the lovely space outside. I would describe my personal style as more modern. I'm really drawn to clean lines and curves. At the same time, I love objects and furnishings that have a story. So I tend to bring in vintage pieces quite a bit in my designs, in my own home and with the clients that I work with. So I guess that's a bit of sort of an eclectic design style. I'm very drawn to color and to sculptural form and natural materials, and now all those elements play a role in the spaces that I create. With this home in particular, I think our vision and our priorities were really, again, to connect to the outside. We wanted to make sure that we had a nice flow between the garden and the indoors. And we love to collect art. So we were lucky to come to the home with a few pieces that we already really loved, and acquired some more pieces since we've been in, mostly Australian and New Zealand artists. And so we really saw this home sort of as a canvas for our artworks that we love so dearly. So when I was designing and when I was making decoration decisions, I had those at the forefront of my mind, those pieces that we love and the pieces that we wanted to bring into the space. Here we are in the combined living, dining, and kitchen space. And this is our favorite part of the home. We spend the most time in here because it has so many purposes. It does a lot of hard work for us. So it's where we are gathering with friends and family. It's where my sons typically their toys are all spread out here. And it's where we're hosting as well and cooking dinners. So I'll walk you through a few of the pieces that I love the most in here, probably starting with this, which is really the centerpiece of the room. So this is a work by Australian artist Zach Tilley, and it is a piece that we commissioned specifically for this space. So when we moved in, we realized we had a design challenge of this really long wall right here without much architectural detail, and we needed to sort of divide it into zones. So we made the living room over here, and we really needed something quite substantial with scale in this area over here. So we knew the size that we wanted, and we went on a hunt for an artist who could produce something that we loved. And we got in contact with Zach through a good friend who acts sort of as an art consultant for us. And I think, a lot of the commission process for some people is not enjoyable, and we absolutely loved our experience with Zach. So we had sent him some images that really resonated with us from his other collections, and gave him the size and gave him some colors that were really speaking to us, and off he went to produce this. And we're so happy. I get to look at this 50 times a day, and I never get sick of it. So each time I look at the piece, I feel like I'm seeing something different. So the landscapes are really, the physical features are gorgeous, and then there's this pink, either river or waterfall, depending on how you want to interpret it, coming through the center. I just love it. When I'm working with clients to commission a piece, there are a few things that I think are really important to keep in mind, or some practices to follow. So one is connecting with the artist early on and sharing what you like most about their work, giving visual examples from their collections that really resonate with you, and setting up a system where you're checking in along the way, where the artist can share updates with you and you're able to provide feedback if that's something that they're open to. But I think probably the most important part, the most important approach would be to let go a little bit. So I think some people go into the commission process thinking that they're going to get a certain thing out of it, and artists are artists because they create from their heart, and they create. That's the way they create beautiful things. And so I think it's really important to remember that you will maybe not get the exact piece that you're imagining in your head, but that really is true to the artist, which is ultimately going to create something more meaningful in your home. Okay, so over here into the living room. So pointing out just a couple pieces that I love the most. These sculptures, we have a woven one and a clay one, are from Javier Reyes. He's out of Oaxaca in Mexico. And I love them for their shape and their scale. I think it's a beautiful form over in the corner, and adds a little bit of height to balance out the height of the tree. And I especially love them because this one especially is virtually indestructible. So having two young boys around, I find that I can't put pretty or fragile things on the floor, but if this gets knocked over, it's, it'll still be safe. We have a collection of my, a huge design magazine collection over here. I think I have a lot of old architectural digests that I picked up secondhand. My and my husband's record collection, which we're still building, and a few other pieces that are special. So this lamp is from a Spanish brand called Los Objetos Decorativos, and they're based out of Spain. And funny story about this lamp, my client fell in love with it. One of my clients in New York fell in love with this lamp, and we accidentally ordered two of them. And so when I went to go to her to visit the site when I was in New York last year, I was so excited to bring the second one home with me. So it was a very happy accident. I looked a bit silly carrying this big bag through the airport, the international terminal, but it was totally worth it to have such a lovely piece come back with me. And it's kind of nice. This client is a very good friend of mine as well, so it's nice that we have matching pieces across the world. This is a Queensland bottle tree. So these trees are obviously native to Australia and Queensland, and they're known for their very large trunks, so they can get quite substantial. They're having a bit of a moment right now, I feel like. I'm seeing a lot of bonsai versions of Queensland bottle trees in design, but this is just a regular one that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. I do think I would like to repot her at one point, get a new pot, but I'm a little bit worried that the transition might shake her up a little bit. So we're keeping her as is for now, and she's getting the right amount of light. So healthy little plant in the corner, and add some interest. So this is a big old coffee table made out of marble from a local supplier named Cocoa Republic. And we love it. I think the veining is fabulous. Typically, it's covered in toys. So it has become my eldest son's parking lot for his car toys. It's become his easel when he's doing crafts and paintings. But on the rare occasion that it is clear like this, it's so lovely to look at the veining. So we typically keep coffee table books here. So these are some of my favorite, one of my favorite designers, Studio Ashby, has a brilliant book out, and I love to browse for inspiration. And this is just one of my favorite objects in the house. So this is called the allium vase, and it's by a local florist. Her name is Hattie Malloy, and she does brilliant bouquets and arrangements of flowers, but also sells these aluminum vases. So it's honed aluminum. And the special part about it is that we'll get a shot from it later, but there's actually a grate in the middle, which allows for easy arranging. I am not a florist, but I do love to spend some time on arrangements, and it makes it really easy to just stick different stems in and to create something quite grand and architectural. It's very user-friendly. So yeah, it's quickly become one of my favorite objects in the home. Underfoot, we just have a really durable but beautifully colored wool rug. It works really hard for us. It manages spills and tracking in some mud and dirt from the garden, and also really has sort of grounded the space with its deep burgundy color. One of the pieces of advice I give clients, and a practice that I also follow, is to start with the art or start with the rug when you're designing a space. And in this space, we used both of those elements to inform our approach to the design. So the rug is this beautiful deep burgundy, and you can see that that's really informed the rest of the color scheme in the space. And I've pulled out tones and colors from the Zach Tilley piece over on the wall with other bits of furnishings too. And I think that makes it really, really straightforward to create something that feels cohesive. So yeah, hot little tip. Over here, we have a lovely little moment with some new things and some old things. So in my practice and also in my home, I really try to incorporate vintage pieces. This is a Danish floor lamp from the 1970s. I think the chrome and the leather work so well together and obviously fits within the broader scheme of the room. This side table is obviously quite a bit more chunky than the lamp. It's by a local furniture designer. Their name is Fearon, and they do these really chunky, bulbous pieces of furniture that come in an array of beautiful colors. I think this one is called Clay Pot. And up here we have a sculpture from Bondi artist. Her name is Tan Arledge. And she did this on commission for us as well. We were looking for something sculptural but also serene for this corner. And we had given her, we'd pointed out some colors and shapes that we were drawn to from her other collections, and she produced this beautiful piece for us. So you should check her out. She's in Bondi. Here we have two vintage safari chairs by the Australian designer Michael Hurst, his name is. These were one of the first pieces that my husband and I purchased together. It was a Facebook marketplace find back when we moved into our Carlton apartment. And they really suited that space. That space was mostly furnished with vintage furniture, and I'm really glad that they found a place over here in a more modern space. So again, I'm always trying to sort of mix the old and new, pieces that are a little bit more clean lined and modern, but also pieces that have a bit of a story. So there's a lovely patina on the wood or on the leather, and the wood's a bit beat up, but adds to its character. And now we are in the garden. So we inherited the garden, a beautiful garden, when we purchased the house, and we've slowly been adding our own touches to it over time. My husband has the green thumb in the family, so he spends quite a bit of time out here. And over here we have a family of agave plants and crepe myrtle above it. So I think this really adds a sort of architectural element to the space. I don't know if you can tell right now, but it is a very cold, gray winter day, and we've had some rain this morning. And what I love about the agave and many parts of this garden is that it stays quite lush and green, even in the dead of winter. So some things have, we've had some ivy and creepers over here that have lost their leaves, but many of the plants and species in here retain their greenery throughout the winter, which is pretty special. Over here we have some more creepers coming up. This is a climbing ficus. Hopefully at one point the whole shed is covered with this. It'll probably take a few more years. We have a few more ficus plants over here as well. This massive bamboo has been so helpful for shade and also privacy. So I don't know if you can see, but we are right on the back of another property back up here. And if the bamboo weren't here, they'd sort of be able to see down onto us. And so it really provides a nice element of privacy for us as well. Over here in the back of the garden, we have a beautiful patch of bamboo that is massive. So it must go 3 or 4 meters high, and it's been so excellent for shade, but also privacy. On the other side of this concrete wall, there's another property right behind us. And so when the bamboo is as lush and as thick as this, it really allows us to have our own little private backyard, even though we're in the inner city in Melbourne. We also have some natives here as well. So this is a Wagga Wagga vine, and in the summer it sort of starts to droop down and creates a little room here, which is quite special as well. But even during the winter, you can see it's doing well. So if you can see here, looks like it's about to flower. We have these hay. This is the Hay Palisades collection. It's one of my favorite outdoor collections currently, and I think the green and the clean lines, the simple lines, just make it really elegant in a green space, because your focus remains on the plants rather than on the furniture. And here, it's not flowering right now, but this is a Japanese maple that's very special to my husband and I. We do our best to protect it from the possums that come every spring and summer. And in the summer, it has this beautiful bloom that is so lovely to look at. But even during the winter, I find it quite sculptural and architectural, which is nice as well. So one of my favorite things about the backyard is really how it connects to our living room. So we made the decision to do the steel frame windows that you saw earlier, and it's really massively expanded the space that we have as a family. We often keep the doors open when the weather is nice, and we're able to sort of move freely inside and outside. And this area has sort of become an extra room or an extension of the house. And I'm really grateful for that. So especially with 2 young ones who have bundles of energy, it's nice to have the extra space. And one thing I'm learning about Australian design is that it's a bit of that sort of connection to the indoors and outdoors is a bit of a thing, because the climate here is a bit more temperate and we can be outside for more of the year. Having spaces that work together and that open into each other is, I think, one of the hallmarks of Australian design. So this right here is a jade money tree, which is meant to bring good luck, and I feel like it has. It was a find from Facebook Marketplace. So a tip is that Marketplace is a great place to find substantial plants and trees. I think when people are getting ready to move interstate and they can't bring their plants with them, they're putting it on Marketplace. So I found the bottle tree, I found this jade plant, I found a cowrie tree, all on Marketplace. So before you head to your local nursery, give a look on Marketplace first. So I'm actually an educator by trade, and I was an English teacher for almost 10 years while I was living in New Orleans. And design was always sort of a passion project side thing. Like I was doing my own home, I was doing my friends' houses, and then I started taking some short courses in the summer and doing some freelancing to decorate homes in the historic districts in New Orleans. And it just was this, it was just this creative itch that I sort of couldn't get rid of. And so I eventually realized that it was something that I wanted to do professionally, which is when I launched my interior decoration practice. And I feel really lucky to be able to spend my time creating beautiful spaces for people. So thank you for spending time with me in the garden. We are about to head back inside now to talk about the kitchen and the other areas in the home. When we set out to design the kitchen, we were looking for something a bit earthy and masculine, which is why we landed on this darker timber that my architects specified. And I think it just brings a lot of depth and sophistication to the space, and I don't seem to ever get sick of looking at it. We also have a travertine bench top here, which is quite thick. So this is where we do most of our prep work. And our cooking happens over here on this bench top. I am not the best cook, but my husband is and loves it. So he's often the one over at the stove while I'm hanging out with the kids or just sitting here and drinking wine. One of the challenges of the space was the floor plan. So we didn't actually have enough room to do a separate kitchen and dining and living area. So I was hoping for a standalone dining table, but my architects, one of the many clever things they did, stilo architecture, was design this bench top to transition and step down into this American walnut dining table. And it's ended up saving us so much space, so we had more space to live in the living area, but it still feels distinct in its own right, and you feel like you're at a proper dining table when you're here. So this is where we have all of our meals. It's where we host friends and family, and it brings us a lot of joy. So we knew, because the dining table was so special, that we needed something equally special with the chairs. And my architects actually also turned me on to these dining chairs, which are from Warren Stores. So Warren Store is in Byron Bay, and they import furniture, mostly from Indonesia, but from also a few other places. And it must be the thing that I get asked about most in the home. I think people are immediately drawn to the bold stripe. I wanted something playful and a bit graphic to work in the space. I think it is a sort of a serious space, the kitchen, and I think the dining chairs bring a whole ton of personality and playfulness, while also, being pretty elegant. They're still a beautiful shape, and they also play really well with the Zach Tilley piece over here, which I love so much. This pendant is from the brand A Step, and it brings me so much happiness to look at it every day. My in-laws call it the UFO pendant, but it just adds a really nice, lovely light overhead. So this vase is from a local maker. Her name is Hillary Green. I'm very attracted to sort of the amphora Grecian shape of vases. And this always sits here, although my little one has started to climb up on the counters. And so I'm getting a little bit nervous about this remaining here. She might have to find a new home, but for now, I think she's a perfect match and plays really nicely with these portraits up here. So these portraits are from an Australian artist named Mark Chu. He's also a good friend of ours. And we purchased them in 2019, shortly after we arrived in Australia. And they're waiters. And I love how portraits sort of interact and have conversations with each other when you put them on the wall next to one another. So I think this guy sort of has this detached eyeball that's looking out. The colors really resonated with us as well, the muted pinks and blues. Now, funnily enough, when these paintings were painted, there was a third waiter, which got sold before we purchased these. They got sold to a friend, a sort of friend of a friend who took them to his apartment in Paris with him. And I kind of like the fact that they're a pair here and they've got a distant sort of cousin or friend overseas. My husband is quite keen to bring the gang back together. So we've started to have conversations with that friend to see if we might actually bring the trio back together. But for right now, the other one lives over in Paris. When we did the renovation, we worked with stilo architecture and forged construction. And my architects were brilliant for many reasons, but especially for this reason. This beam was exposed. It was an exposed timber beam at the beginning of the renovation journey, and I really wanted to keep it. I have trouble sort of painting over wood because I know it can never go back, and so I wanted to keep it in its wood. And they very rightly convinced me that there would be too much clashing with the darker timbers. And it would detract from the space, and they were right. So it still remains as an architectural feature, but just in its white color, and I'm really grateful for them for this and for many other reasons. My biggest tip when starting a renovation is to find an excellent architect and builder because they make all of the difference in the process. We were really lucky to work with stilo architecture and forged construction from sort of concept to completion here. And they were incredibly helpful along the way at every step of the way, especially during COVID when building was really challenging. We obviously had to make some decisions based on budget, and I think when it came time to sort of de-scope, we got our initial quote back. It was out of budget for us, so we needed to pull back. We really thought about where we were going to spend the most time and what was going to have the biggest impact on our quality of life. So, for example, these steel framed windows were absolutely an area that we wanted to spend and to splurge. And that is because the amount of light that they brought in, the connection to the outdoor space, and sort of how they expanded the living area really mattered to us. And so that was an area where we knew we wanted to spend. We scaled back, for example, on some custom joinery and did standalone pieces that might be able to move with us as we transition to a new home. We also didn't paint, and I think that's another tip that I have for folks that are renovating. There's no pressure to choose your paint colors right away. We've actually painted over the course of the 3 years that we've been here, and it's allowed us to really live with the space and understand how we're going to use the rooms individually and how we want those spaces to feel. And then we've chosen colors accordingly. So when I walk you through the bedrooms, I'll share more about that. But my tip there would be to wait to live in the space before you choose your paint colors. Okay, so now we're gonna head to the front of the house where the bedrooms and the bathrooms are. So come with me. We are here in the master bedroom, and this space was designed with tranquility in mind. I really wanted to walk into a room that felt very intimate and cozy, and I made most of the design decisions with that feeling in mind. We will start with the standout piece in the room, which is this painting by New Zealand artist Kirsty Budge. It's called Ruffling Feathers, and it is one of my favorite paintings in the home. So the colors and the tones and the imagery are quite obviously surreal and a little bit dark, and I love that mood that creates in the space. So what you'll see in the middle of the painting, sort of central, is a woman like cloaked in red. She's actually meant to symbolize, from what I understand, Joan of Arc. And there's some other, dark elements throughout the piece. So I think she's bouncing an eyeball here, sort of like a basketball. And there are other images that I think represent women's body parts throughout the work. And similar to the Zach Tilley painting that I talked about earlier today, every time I look at this painting, I'm seeing something new. I never tire of it. I never get bored. And it creates a really, it's dramatic, but it's also at the same time serene, and it works perfectly in a space like this. So I'm really glad that we have her. So here we have Burl bedside tables. These were purchased from a local vintage reseller, and I love them. They also provide excellent storage. We also have another vintage element on top. This is a Planet lamp. Planet is sort of this, what I've learned is this iconic Australian brand, lighting brand. And one of the Planet lamps, I think it was this one, was my husband's lamp, his desk lamp as a child that his parents passed on to us when we moved in. And I was lucky enough to find another one on Facebook Marketplace that matched it, or mostly matched it, a few years later. So now we use them as bedside lamps. So for the wall color, we wanted to bring in the tones from the painting. This is a wall color that's called Chinchilla Chenille by Dulux Paints, and it's one of my favorite wall colors, but also one of my favorite names of wall colors, Chinchilla Chenille. And it's sort of this muted beigey pink, with pink undertones, and creates a really, a really zen-like atmosphere. And on the ceiling, we did a green called Paris Creek. And what I love about that is that it connects to the ensuite. So the ensuite bathroom is drenched in green, and that continues here to the ceiling. So a big part of the brief to our architects was to maximize storage in the space, and they delivered. So we have custom joinery in each of the bedrooms in the front of the house, which provides excellent storage for our family. It's funny, when we left the smaller apartment and moved in here, I was like, oh my gosh, we have so much storage. And already it feels like we need more. So I guess that's life with kids. But we did I think it's called a lime wash, or a French wash from Porter's Paint on the exterior, which just provides a lot of dimension and depth and looks really lovely. We're here in the master ensuite bathroom. One of the many clever things that my architects did was divide one bathroom into two. So when we moved in, this whole area was a combined bathroom and laundry area, and they separated it into two bathrooms. So we have a small ensuite and a small guest bathroom as well. And while the spaces are compact, what they sort of lack in space, they make up for in sort of design impact. So we've drenched both of these spaces in a color. I think bathrooms are a really great place to experiment with color and to go a bit bolder. Here in this space, you can see that we went for a very deep green tile, which is carried all around the bathroom and onto the floor. And then we color matched the ceiling with the tile to create a really cozy feel. So I feel, very connected to nature when I'm in here. We've got the natural stone as well on the bench top up here, as well as timber, which makes it feel, really earthy and cozy. Most of the art that we have in the home is from Australian or New Zealand artists, but we do have a few really special pieces from American artists, this being one of them. This is a painting by my good friend Heather Bird Harris. She is a New Orleans and Atlanta based artist, and she uses natural pigments to create these abstract pieces. Nowadays, she's working on a much bigger scale, so sort of think 2 or 3 meter paintings. Now, one of these days, I'll have a wall that can accommodate one of her big, beautiful pieces, but for now, this little one has found a perfect place in the green bathroom. My favorite part of our home is where we are right now, which is the combined living, dining, and kitchen area. And this has really become the hub of our family life. It's where we spend almost all of our time together. So it's just such a beautiful experience to come out here in the morning as the light is coming in, have your coffee out in the garden, and then as the boys wake up, the space transforms, really into their play space. So the coffee table becomes the parking lot for my son's car toys, and we spend a good chunk of our days in here. We're cooking lunches and dinners and spending time as a family. So I'm just really grateful for this space and what it's become for our family, and that I was able to infuse my personal style and my design ethos into the space, and we get to look at all of the pretty things all day long. We are here in my son Theodore's nursery. I love this space and I am cherishing it because now that we have 2 little ones, I think we're going to be combining rooms and possibly transitioning them to the front room. So enjoying this space while it lasts. And I designed it to feel very cheerful. And like a lot of the rooms in the home, I started with a piece of art to inform the color scheme and the approach to design. So this is a piece by an Indigenous artist. Her name is Elizabeth Ingwaware Bonnie, and she is based in the Northern Territory. And I just fell in love with the colors and the texture in this piece. And you can see that there are yellows and there are pinks and oranges, and I really tried to draw those colors out and bring them into the surrounding room. So we have on the wall a deluxe color called Solar Half, which really just is this beautiful, buttery, scrumptious color that I never tire of looking at. We've also brought in the yellow into these curtains up here. So I love a stripe, as you know, from the chairs up front, and the nursery is no exception. It needs to get a stripe. So those add just sort of a playful and fun graphic element. So underfoot we have a Tibetan tiger, or a play on a Tibetan tiger rug. So obviously a little bit more sort of cartoony in style with the pinks, but just brings another graphic element. I'm actually a huge sucker for animal print, and it appears all the time in my wardrobe, but I've realized that this is the only place in the house that you'll find a animal print, which is probably something that I need to remedy. I think maybe the couch is due for a reupholster soon, so there might be a possibility there. But love a tiger print and the graphic element that it brings in. Over here we have another piece of art that means quite a lot. So I spent most of my 20s in New Orleans, Louisiana, and obviously a big part of the culture of that city is around Mardi Gras. So on Lundi Gras, which is the day before Mardi Gras, there is a red beans and rice parade where everybody dresses up in costume that is made of red beans and rice. And it's a really fun moment and a really sort of community-oriented parade. This poster came from a sub-crew of the red beans and rice parade, which was called, the Dead Bean Parade. And obviously it works with the colors. My friend Fiona sent that to me from overseas. So over here we've got the original fireplaces, which have been modernized with a bit of a paint, and also we've added new tile down below here just to give it a bit of a modern look. And obviously it's not in use because right now it's home to my son's stuffed animals on his bike, but it would be lovely if we could use them. And over here is my son's cot. This is a piece by a Sydney artist. Her name is Claudia Brand. She's actually a good friend, a good family friend. And this origami crane mobile was an Etsy purchase, actually. But I love how when you get it from the right angle, it looks like the cranes are sort of flying in the sky. And a Japanese poster of the Great Wave, but in a pink to match the rest of the scheme. And over here we have a cork board that houses my son's creations and some of his mementos. So just some family photos, as well as some of his artworks from school. He's quite the artist. He brings home 2 or 3 pieces a day. So we don't have space for all of them, but we select a few to swap in and out here on his board. We are in the reading corner, the reading nook for my son's nursery. And I'll start over here with this sconce, which is from a UK brand called What the Mood, just a cute and little playful, but also very functional reading light. We end his day every night in here with 3 or 4 books, or sometimes 5 or 6 if he's lucky. And this chair has been, it's one of my favorites because it's just so cozy, and having a bit of an ottoman that we can all really just cozy up on. And now that there's 2 little ones, my 3-month-old is also joining us for reading at night, and it accommodates all of us, which is great. Books over here, books up here. On the shelves, we have books in other places, so many books. He's a book lover, and obviously a cute little confetti chair that he sometimes has now taken to sort of pulling up beside the reading chair as if I'm reading him a book in school. So that's how he's liking to read his nighttime books these days. Here we are in the guest bedroom. And we are so lucky that this room gets such a lot of use. So my parents live in the US and they come over to visit at least a couple of times a year, sometimes more. And my partner Alex's parents are in regional Victoria, about 4 hours away. So they come almost weekly to spend time with us and the boys. And we're lucky to be able to accommodate them when they come and join. And there's a few elements in this room that I really love. I'll start over here with this gallery wall. The gallery wall is mostly family portraits that have been collected over the years, some from my side of the family and some from my partner Alex's. So family is obviously really important to both of us, and it was important to me that I found a space in the house that could honor that and display that. So a few important ones to call out. Up at the top we have a sketch of Alex and I on our wedding day, also by Claudia Brand, who was the artist that did the clouds in Theo's nursery. And obviously it's such a special day for us, and was really grateful to have it captured by Claude. cloth with the pencil drawing. We have my grandmother here, a portrait of her. She's still with us back in Pennsylvania, my city, and my city and Jati on their wedding day. I also have my paternal Graham here and my grandpa on their wedding day. And then there's more wedding photos from Alex's side of the family. This was my great-great-grandfather on his wedding day. And this, as you can see, is not a family portrait. This is a painting of yours truly. This is done by another Australian artist. Her name is Shawn Williams, and she is a dear friend of ours. And her husband, Harry, actually officiated our wedding. And Shawn gifted this to Alex and I on the night before our wedding. And I love it. And I think it fits perfectly in with the vibe of the rest of the gallery wall. Both my husband and I occasionally work from home. And so we needed a space that would allow us to do that. But we didn't have we don't have a separate room. We don't have space for a separate room. So it was important that we find a really compact desk and that we're, as always, sort of maximizing vertical storage. So this is I think it's steel, some sort of metal. And then I carried that up through the shelves in a similar material, and we were able to accommodate, I think, 70% of our book collection over here. And these shelves have also become places for little trinkets from our travels and from our son. So this is his rock collection. My father-in-law is a budding ceramicist, and this is a little espresso cup from him. And we have a few paper objects from South Africa that act as storage. Yeah. It works for us. I will take you over now to this piece. This piece is by a woman named Stacy Rees, and it is actually the first piece that my husband and I bought together. We bought it in 2019 when we were in this heritage apartment in Carlton, which is about a 20-minute drive from here. And the apartment was a heritage listed home. It actually was the former Bureau of Meteorology way back in the early 1900s. And it had these massive 3 to 4 meter ceilings. And we really needed a piece that was quite substantial to anchor the living room. So we came across Stacy's work. She was represented at the time by Modern Times, and this collection was a collection of 20 pieces of women in various positions. And this one's called Stone on Stone, and I absolutely love it for its simplicity and also for its color scheme. I was so happy when we brought her here and she fit right above the mantle. I was worried she wasn't going to fit, but she fits almost perfectly. And you can see her from the street, so it's one of the first things when you're walking up to the house. And we love her. We also used the painting to inform the color scheme for the rest of the room. So you'll see we have this earthy yellow mustard, and we took a deeper tone and put that onto the ceiling. I think painting a ceiling, especially in a home like this that has architectural features like the molding, really highlights that and is quite an interesting thing to do. I think some people are a little reluctant to paint their ceiling, but I think it can be very high impact. And we also took some of the tones from the other parts of the background of the painting and brought those onto the wall. So this is Dulux color called Tavern, and it really has the effect of sort of, bringing the room in. It's quite an expansive space, but the colors that we've chosen, I think, sort of create some intimacy. And we have this painting to thank for that color scheme. Over here we have a thrifted piece of art, also a portrait. There is a large intersection of art that my husband and I like, which I'm really grateful for, that we have similar taste. I do gravitate more towards portraits than he does, and he often indulges me in that, which I'm grateful for. But what I love about portraits is how they can sort of take on a different life when they're on the walls, and how they can be in conversation with other portraits. So this one looks, the figure in this one sort of looks like she could almost be a sister to the Stacey Rees painting. So she's in a similar shape, has a similar body type, a long neck, and she's in a similar position as well, sort of crouching and leaning forward, but she's facing in the opposite direction of the other painting. So I sort of like to imagine that they might be sisters and they're feuding over something trivial, but that they've been holding on to for a long time. So this is our guest bed. We have a cane backboard or headboard and vintage cane side tables. So I wanted to make sure that when we were designing the space, it felt earthy and grounded. So trying to stick with natural materials. We have a sheepskin wool rug underfoot, and then brought in these wooden elements to ground the space. And above us, we have a rice paper pendant. I am very loyal to Japanese style lanterns. I use them in many of my projects, and my own home is no exception. So we have an Akari one in the master bedroom. This one is from the company Hay, and I am of the belief that you cannot have a Japanese rice paper pendant that is too large. So we went with the largest version that we could get from Hay, and she adds such a lovely ethereal quality to the space, and also is sculptural in her own right. And I love that lighting can also act as a piece of art, and try to lean into using lighting as art in all of my projects. I think what makes a house a home is that it reflects the stories of the people who live in it. And a good home, I feel, also has space to grow. As you evolve, your home should evolve with you. So a good home is never sort of done.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.